Hey everybody, it's Lent. I got my purple hat on, and I don't know. I thought I'd get away from the natural beauty backgrounds for a week and just part of Eau Claire too, right? So for years and years, I guess this has been here. It used to be called Pope and Talbot. Now it's called the Cascade Tissue Group. I was gonna set up near where the recycling sludge comes out, but I didn't. There's an easterly wind today, and so I'm right above me are the train tracks. Maybe a train will go by. That'll really drown out our time. But anyways, it's right across the river, like from St. James. High Bridge is just over there, a place I like so much, and they make tissue paper here, like for blowing your nose into it, things like that. So a lot of people have worked here over the years, and this one stayed in business, unlike the Uniroyal plant, right? That closed in '92. So anyway, thought it'd be a little different Eau Claire scenery for you. Bunch of parish news, a few other things to reflect on today. Mainly, we had our parish mission. I'm so sad, I mean, it was almost over before we started our parish mission. It was especially a happy one for me because my good friend Pam came and told us, as our presenter, and people really took to Pam, as I knew they would. She's just a very sincere, genuine person, sharing a little about her story, while making it clear that she didn't think her suffering in life is extraordinary. The theme of her talk was finding hope in the midst of suffering. And I don't know, my sense was that we had as many people Tuesday night there that were there Sunday night. So I think that's always a good sign that people responded to it and enjoyed her spirit. She gave a lot of content, but it wasn't real a heady thing. It was, why would a loving God allow suffering? That was a question on her mind, but it's not like we delved into that, philosophically. And I'm glad we didn't, because that can get kind of dry and dull. But it was really her lived experience as someone who really loved God and valued her faith so much. And as she told the story, in her early life, just things went real well, and she kind of attributed it to the fact that she was behaving well and that she was praying a lot, and what she prayed for were always kind of good things, like a healthy, happy baby, and she got older, and a lot of great things she was praying for, particularly a genetic disease of one of her children happened, and just sort of like, well, why is this, and how can I continue to love God when I see suffering in my life and I see suffering in other people's lives and such hard things in the world. And so that's what drove her reflections. And she really kind of moved to like a lot of people do, I think. Why could this happen, or how can I believe in a loving God, to finding that question kind of unanswerable, but also coming to know a God who loves her in the midst of the struggle, and will help her, will help us get through it. So just a lot of it is just kind of a turn of phrase, So she said one thing that wasn't helpful when she was going through stuff was a phrase like, God never gives you more than you can handle. And I think what that created in her was an idea like, well, God is up there in heaven doling out stuff to people. He'll give you all, that person's strong, I think I'll give that person a child with disabilities, or I'll give this person cancer, or something like that. And she's like, I just can't go there. And so rather than saying God doesn't give us more than we can handle, she's great. She said, I do believe that with God I can handle all things. That with God I can handle all things. So it's a subtle thing, but I think it's really important, and I like that a lot. So God's not like the one dishing out the suffering, but helping us through suffering. And then where do we locate God in the midst of suffering? Sometimes we just think of God as the one controlling events. But she kept going back to a beautiful idea that God is love. All who live in love live in God. And so in the love that we can receive from others when we're hurting, God is there. And the love that we can show others when they're hurting or when we're hurting, sometimes there's a real special powerful love when people see that we're hurting, but we still are considerate and caring for them. I just heard a nice story. We have Ed Hofacker's funeral on Friday, and his family was saying that on his dying days, 14 years with cancer, so hospice, pretty intense hospice toward the end, and he was very acutely aware that his daughter and his wife, he had 2 birthdays in the family, both March 4th. And he kept saying, when is your birthday now? And they'd say March 4th, it's Saturday. And he died on March 3rd. And they took it as he didn't want to die. He didn't want to associate our birthdays with his death day. And so sometimes you hear stories like that. There's people that are so considerate of others, even in their greatest passion and pain. Certainly Jesus was, right? And Pam mentioned the story, the beloved disciple, this is your mother now. He points to his mother. You're going to take care of her. And mother, this is your son now. But that's, Jenny told a beautiful story about her husband when he died, Eddie, that I heard at his funeral, that he was sick and dying at home in hospice. And when he knew it was about time to die, he got up off of the couch and went to another chair and gave up his spirit there because he didn't want to die on that couch, which is like one of Jenny's favorite couches, So it's just beautiful. Just beautiful story, hard stories, but beautiful nonetheless, even though they involve death. So anyway, I thought it was great. I thought we had a great 3 days, and I got a lot of emails from people saying how much they appreciated it. I forwarded them all on to Pam, and I think she's really humbled. And she loved our time. She kept saying, I can't believe how everybody is so nice here. I don't know. So I guess I'm not surprised. That's the way we are, I guess, huh? So I was really glad she had a good time, and people who came had a good time. Let's see. Other parish news. Cherish your parish. I guess that's good. Stations of the Cross with the children tomorrow at Friday at 2:50, and then we're going to have some more adult Stations of the Cross. I believe this Friday, March 10th, and then the next Friday, March 10th, March 17th. Great way to celebrate St. Patrick's Day at 7 p.m. Speaking of St. Patrick's Day, we got the big dispensation from Bishop Callahan. So go ahead and have your corned beef next Friday. Not this Friday, though. Next Friday. Let's see. Blessing bag. So we had a great success collecting for Community Haven House, the Eau Claire warming shelter. We were collecting warming pads for gloves and hot cocoa, coffee, and soft granola bars I mentioned. So that drives completed for that group. But Christine was talking to like Sojourner House, the homeless shelter, and Community Table, the free meal program in Eau Claire, and they said, boy, we'd love those things too. So keep them coming. Keep the hot chocolate coming. Keep the coffee coming. Keep the hand warmers coming, and keep the what was the fourth one? The soft bars that if you don't even have any teeth, you could enjoy it and use. Except they won't be going to Community Haven House, or they'll be going to the Sojourner House or the Community Table. The blessing bag thing that RE was sponsoring, we're done with that now. It'll be done this weekend. So I guess you could bring things this weekend yet. Okay, so that's good. And as always, we always collect for the St. Francis Food Pantry. My brother gave me some Proraso shave cream for Christmas this year, and it's really a high quality, but it's a foamy thing. And maybe I used to use that. I haven't used. I don't use it basically. So I made the switch to brush and things, and that's not for brush. And it's this big pressurized can and made of metal. And that's why I switched. I didn't like throwing away that stuff all the time into the earth. My little small gesture of trying to be sensitive to the earth. Hopefully I do more than that too, but boy, it's hard not to use plastic and stuff, isn't it? But anyway, I try not to use plastic in my shaving life, and I got this big can of anyway. So someone can use it. It's a great quality thing. So I'll put that in the St. Francis Food Pantry bag for sure. Pool tournament, just another reminder. Ben said he can't come this year. Ben's one of our great competitors, but he'll miss it. Hopefully Al and Jim and Chris is coming, I think, and so a few others. I heard there's going to be Domino's Pizza, so I don't know. I don't want to raise people's expectations just in case, but that'd be great, wouldn't it? So that'll be on Sunday, March 26th, 1 to 3, right under my office in the parish pool hall. I like to call it the parish pool hall. It's a room with a pool table in it. So we just were talking at the staff meeting that there could be some hard times for some families coming up. A lot of layoffs. Marshfield Clinic announced through their system they'll be laying off hundreds. Certainly some in Eau Claire. Hutchinson Technologies, a big employer in Eau Claire, announced that they'd be having layoffs. So to be sensitive to that. Okay. I read an article in America Magazine. It's a good magazine. It's a Jesuit weekly or bi-weekly. It's nice. I got a good idea it's usually about more social issues and spirituality things, but there's sometimes about how to do Mass well, how to organize them. And one thing it's always nice when they say you should do this, and that's what you're doing, So it's good the other way too, to learn and to tweak things. But it said, keep your announcements, if you're going to make a parish announcements, and you should, because it's an important thing for parish life, like there's a parish mission this Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That was our announcement last week. But it said, keep them before Mass, before the opening song and everything. And I said, excellent, that's what we do. Then I had to read why that was a good idea. And it's pretty much what I thought. They said it's real common to do them at the end of Mass, and I've always felt this. I always feel like at the end of Mass, this isn't the best reason, but I always feel at the end of Mass, people want to go. Sometimes people leave early. In fact, they want to go so much. I went with my brother and his family when his girls were in their early teens to their church out east, and we were, I think they were in the middle of announcements after communion, and Kira, my goddaughter, she was about 13 maybe, she said, let my people go. Quoting scripture, Moses trying to get Pharaoh, let my people go, they're in bondage. So she probably picked that up from her father, my brother, but anyway, I thought it was pretty clever, and I always kind of remembered that. You don't want to hold people to a long announcement time after Mass. The beginning of Mass, people are fresh and, maybe. And that was his point, though, was more as far as the liturgy. He said, I got a quote here, having Mass announcements right before the liturgy ends, like after communion, is like having the director come out and stop the play Hamlet with 3 minutes before it finishes in order to tell the audience where the best post-show spots are to go out for a drink. And only after that, calling out the actors again to finish the play. That's kind of clever. But the idea is, so often I actually forget things I want to say at the end of Mass. Sometimes I'll add something, and I hope people don't think those are announcements. Some things I'll feel something that I'm moved by at communion time I just want to share with people. And hopefully that's not on the same order of announcements, but that it flows with the sense of communion and liturgy. But I'll, like announcement, like I know I should thank the choirs more often, because they do well. I think I'm getting a little better at that. But a lot of kind of just things that I want to announce about parish life that maybe we forgot in the beginning, I always forget at the end of Mass, because I don't mean to be patting myself on the back, but I think I pray Mass pretty intensely, and then it's hard to just check the going from communion to wanting to bless people and send them on their way, to kind of just sort of stop and saying, there's a fish fry at so and so parish on Friday, and there's this and this. So that's sometimes why I forget maybe to say things at the end. But I like to do it at the beginning. And we have Christine usually does the announcement. She does a great job, really engaging, and usually throws a little humor in there. So that's why we do it at the beginning. Anyway, I thought sometimes it's fun to affirm what you know. However, a couple of months ago, I read an article, probably in the same magazine, that suggested for funeral masses, if there's going to be a eulogy, if people are going to share, a relative share about the life of their memories, from the person who died, whose soul we commend to God, to do that before the Mass begins also. And I thought about that. That made a lot of sense to me, because it's kind of the same thing, I think, as you go from communion, and that should flow into. We have a procession of the Book of Life with the person's name on it, so the communion of saints and being in our that Book of Life with all those names, and family processing that to the Blessed Sacrament area where there's a stand for it, and then the prayer of commendation to God, and then recessing out. There's just kind of a nice flow to it, and so sometimes to kind of stop that, and it could be a great eulogy. I'm not judging that at all. It could be a really beautiful thing, but good eulogies usually have a little humor in them and stuff too. And so the author was saying that's a great thing to kind of set the tone. Let's remember the person. Let's get that person's life in our minds, and then let's start the funeral Mass. And then at the end we'll just kind of flow out with we've been fed, we had communion, we've been blessed, and commended the soul to God, and off we go. And I keep forgetting to do that, though. We haven't tried it yet. It would have been for Ed's funeral Friday. I think the family would have been very open to that. And I forgot all about that might be a good way to go. But I guess the tricky part is if there's a procession at, so everyone have to come in and hear the eulogy, and then like family would go back and come in with the body. So that might be a little awkward, but I still like the idea of it. I think it would make the funeral Mass more coherent and powerful. I think it wouldn't break it up. But these are the things that we think about in our spare time when we're pastors, I guess, huh? So anyway, how are we doing? 17. I really went over long last time. So I want to talk a little about confession. So confession of our sins, receiving absolution, sacrament of reconciliation. It's just always easier to say we have confessions at 3:30 or there's confessions Friday, but what there really is an opportunity for you to articulate your sins to an ordained minister of the church and hear the words of forgiveness that he announces on God's behalf. So go to confession. That's shorthand, but it's a little more beautiful than that. But so there are confessions like Friday afternoon and evening from 2 in the afternoon till 8 in the evening. My time slot, along with 3-4 other priests, is from 2 to 4, and then again from 6 to 8 at St. Mary's in Altoona. And then on Saturday, April 1st, same thing, except from 8 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. Because I have 2 slots that Friday, I won't be hearing on Saturday. We have our confirmation retreat that day, and it's so I doubled up on the first night. But anyway, I just wanted to say a little bit about making a good confession. Our Lenten theme this year with the worship committee set for us is how do I rise with Christ? How do we rise with Christ? And I think one answer to that is by admitting my need for forgiveness, confessing my sins, and being lifted up and forgiven by the God who, as Pope Francis reminds us, I kind of lost track. I used to say this a lot, but I kind of lost track of it the last few years. But his first year as Pope, Pope Francis said, he just reminded us, God loves to forgive us. He absolutely loves to forgive us. That's a great thing to hear when you're preparing for the sacrament of reconciliation yourself. God loves to forgive us. It's not a stingy God. It's not like we have to just say it just right, in order to experience forgiveness. Oh, there's some industrial noise. Someone's going backwards. But I don't know, and this is a little bit of a delicate subject, but I want to maybe just chat a little bit about what I think is really a a good confession. I know that's judgmental. I'm kind of saying others are bad. And when I say good, ooh, someone's not happy. I mean one that really helps you experience healing. So I think there's a difference between just kind of doing what we're supposed to do in the sacrament of confession, sacrament of reconciliation, and doing what we need to do. So I don't know. I see people, maybe they learn an examination of conscience just to have the 10 Commandments there, and they associate certain sins with that. And so I haven't put God first in my life. I disobeyed my parents. I used bad words. I just kind of go down the list. I got angry. Impure thoughts, lust. Sometimes I want what other people have. I haven't always told the truth. Things like that. And I think they feel like maybe they're guided by those, and there's a good things to confess. And sure enough, but I think my sense is that it's not really cutting very deep. It's like, well, so I'm supposed to do. This is all true. I'm just getting out there, and now I experience forgiveness. And I said cut very deep. I don't know if it's in Acts chapter 2, maybe. There's a great reading in the Easter season where Peter's right after Pentecost, I think. He goes out and preaches. And that you, people of God, Jesus Christ, whom you crucified, God has raised and made Lord. Something like that. And I said the people were cut to the heart when they heard that. This Son of God whom you crucified, that really pierced their heart. They felt deep contrition for that. And then they were able to let forgiveness flow into them because their hearts were open. So that's kind of the idea. So I guess when I'm trying to make a good confession, I'll think about what's my vocation. Okay, so I'm a priest. Most people's vocation when they come, they're married, or maybe they're widowed now. But who are the people that God has given me to care for? My vocation. So how am I doing? My attitude toward parishioners. How am I doing in my ministry? Where's my heart at? And of course, husband and wives. How am I doing in my marriage? How am I doing as a parent? And I think right there, when you just kind of ask that, it's going to cut your heart because that's what your life's all about. That's your sacred call. That's your vocation. Single people too. What are the significant relationships in my life? How am I helping others get to heaven? How am I showing them love? I think that's a really important question to ask when you're preparing for a confession. Be a good friend, and the personal things. My personal prayer life. How am I doing with it? How am I living as a daughter of God, a son of God? Personal things would touch issues of like lust. We hear that a lot in confessions, sometimes exclusively, and I would say very often exclusively. Like that's the only thing to worry about, or that's the only thing that's like off in my life is I have lusty thoughts or lusty actions. And it's a thing to mention. It sure is, because it's an important part of our life, and we're just so challenged right now with the internet and advertising and cultural attitudes, and it's tough to be the chaste, C-H-A-S-T-E. So I mean, it's an area of concern, and yet, boy, it certainly isn't the only area of concern. And I think it's an area of concern maybe where people feel a lot of shame and embarrassment, and so we have to walk lightly there. Sometimes I'm like, I'll just wonder, well, is there anything else maybe where you failed, or just in that area, but it's really the only area where people feel bad maybe. And so I, for myself, I just think it's more than that. If that's an issue, by all means, confess that. But how am I dealing with my neighbor on a day-to-day basis? How do I deal with the fact that I'm in a world, that has a lot of ecological challenges, that has a lot of poverty. And this is the way I'm living my lifestyle, my consumption patterns. Would I be okay showing God my consumption patterns? What I spend my money on? Knowing that God sees the whole world and all the poverty in the world and everything. To me, that's something definitely worth confessing too. My life in the context of this, all children of God. It's not just about me and my personal purity. It's important because the more personal purity we have, the freer we are to be generous with our lives, right? And that includes how we deal with people in most need, for sure. So it's kind of all in there. See if I wrote anything else down. And always to remember the sins of omission, so what I've done, what I've failed to do. I think the bottom line, is that if a confession just becomes, I got to do this, or I'll be punished somehow, or I got to do this because it's just what I got to do once a year, and then you just kind of do the minimal or what you're supposed to do. I just don't know that gets to the point of the whole sacrament, which is to heal us, to make us more free, to help us to feel joy and forgiveness and mercy. So I just throw that out to you as a little maybe advice as we get close to this time when throughout Eau Claire, priests like myself will be hearing people's sins and offering God's forgiveness. So see if I wrote anything else down. Oh, act of contrition. It's okay. One by formula. It's kind of easy, but again, I think the formulas we learn can be just can get kind of mechanical. If you're ever up for it, I'd just make up your own. The main ingredients of an act of contrition is I'm sorry for my sins, and God, with your help, I resolve to do better. So it could be as short as that, but you can weave a nice prayer around like that, like, loving God, I am so sorry for my sins. I think about my life that you've given me, and I want to use it for the good. I want to shine with your light. And I know sometimes, very often, more often than I would like, self-centeredness gets the best of me. And I don't want it to be that way. I want to rely on your help to do better, to turn away from the sins I've confessed, and to even do more positive things with your help. Amen. I think that would be a great act of contrition. And don't worry about it. If you come to me as a confessor, I'm not going to think don't make a good confession or something. That's why I say it's kind of a touchy subject. But I just wanted to say something that might help people make a better confession, or a confession with more impact in their life, more potential for healing. So, okay. Well, again, I'm still kind of excited because our parish mission was such a success, and it was great to be with everybody. Thanks to our soup makers and our dishwashers and our everyone who came and just had enjoyed it. So on we go. Once the parish mission's over, then we know we got to start getting ready for Holy Week, right? So, okay, why don't we just take in this little Cascades tissue paper scene here. Maybe next time I'll go to the recycling sludge dump. It's right over there. But Lord, help us turn to you with all our hearts this Lenten season. Help us become aware of our need for you and of your desire to be close to us, of your love for us and how you view each of us as your precious child. If that's lacking in any of your people, Lord, please give us the grace to know that. Nothing's more important. Be with all your people that are hurting. Help them to know that despite their pain, you are with them, and you love them, and you are there to help them. Let us love one another. Amen. Okay. See you guys. Bye.